because Prince Harry is accusing sources of attempting to sabotage his reconciliation with the King.
Yeah, and this is really interesting because it does make you wonder, because, of course, he himself denies reports that he branded his recent reunion with his father formal, distinctly formal.
Well, it's the first meeting in about 2 years, and Harry apparently joked he felt more like an official visitor rather than a member of the royal family.
But now his spokesperson said the claims were pure invention fed, one can only assume, by sources intent on sabotaging any reconciliation between father and son.
Let's talk to royal commentator Jack Stooks. Jack, good morning to you.
Hi,
it has to be said, there is an air of truth to this, isn't there? The idea that insiders are trying to put a stop to this. The idea that it was a very formal meeting is frankly ridiculous.
I mean, yes, you know, we've seen Harry time and time again have these meetings and go back and tell everybody what was said. Now, the reports that are coming out are saying that they're saying that it was a formal meeting, and they're saying that a gift was given. That's all that they've come up with. They haven't actually said what was spoken about at that meeting. So I do not think that Harry's going around telling anybody about this meeting. I think he does want reconciliation. I think he does want, to be back in the fold and actually be working with the family again. I know he's spoken about, time and time again, wanting to do a little bit of royal meetings, a little bit of work here and there. And I think that what we gather is that the King may have said, no, it's all in or all out, just like the Queen said before. But I don't see a problem with this half in, half out, because if you look at all the figures of all the other royals that are doing public engagements, some years, Prince William does a lot less engagements than Princess Anne, for instance. So does that mean that year that Prince William was half out? No, it doesn't. It's ridiculous. The royals doing public events and public engagements, whether they do 5 public engagements a year or 200, they're still actually helping the royal family. So why is it that, Harry's not helping? And it does. It makes pure sense, especially in this moment in time when we've got an ill king who, we don't know how long he can carry on with his public duties. We really don't. I mean, he's an amazing person as he is. He sort of pushes and strives along. But I don't see that Harry's gone off and told anybody anything. I think it's all been sort of made up, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, certainly any of the people I've spoken to, and so the journalists here in the newsroom behind us, you all think that this doesn't sound as though this was leaked by Harry. It really doesn't, because he's clearly very upset that any of it is in the papers, and he's saying that quite a few of the facts are actually untrue, demonstrably untrue, he says.
Yeah.
So if it wasn't Harry, then who was it? Now, he is sort of talking about the men in grey suits, which I'm afraid is the way Princess Diana used to talk, that people in the grey suits, the courtiers around, were briefing against her. And I can't help wondering now whether the courtiers think, frankly, it's better now if Harry stays away. So they're trying everything they can to keep him away.
Well, exactly. I mean, we don't actually know where it's coming from, like you said, and like you say, the men in grey suits, there are people like that within any business, as we know. There's people in the household that might not want the king seeing a certain person, so they might try and keep the king from seeing a certain person. They might suddenly have an idea that they don't like a certain person, so they might try and push that person out of a job. And we've seen that time and time again in so many businesses, so many companies. So it doesn't seem unreasonable to think that that's happening in the palace either. Now, Harry's been away as long as he has. And, some people in the palace might think, why should he be coming back in? But it's not really down to them, and it's not really down to, a person that may have seen the photo and, might have said to someone, oh, actually, I saw Harry holding a photo in the car on the way into Clarence House. I mean, it could be as simple as that, so it may not be coming from anywhere sinister, but no, we don't know where it's coming from, but it is odd, because normally we would hear exactly what was said in the meeting, and we haven't heard what was said. So I don't think it's coming from Harry, because it was probably only Harry and the King in that meeting.
Family, gather around, because today's story is one of those moments where the truth, the vision, and the humanity of Harry and Meghan shine through in ways that not even their harshest critics can deny. And when you see who is now echoing their very concerns, none other than King Charles himself, you realise just how forward-thinking, how compassionate and how rooted in real-world impact Harry and Meghan have always been. Now the headlines might just make it seem like this is another royal story about conversations in Balmoral, but no, this is bigger. This is about children, safety, mental health, and the dangerous trap that social media has become for too many young people around the world. And let's be very clear, the people who have been leading the charge on this conversation for years are none other than Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Let's set the stage. King Charles sat down privately with Reverend Tommy McNeil of the Shed Project, a mental health initiative based in the Isle of Lewis. The Reverend revealed that Charles was deeply concerned, profoundly engaged, and fully aware of how destructive social media can be for young people. He was troubled by the frightening realities of what kids today are exposed to online, the bullying, the hate, the body shaming, the misinformation, and in tragic cases, the very loss of young lives. Now, doesn't that sound familiar? Doesn't that sound like the exact message Harry and Meghan have been preaching? Not for clicks, not for royal PR, but because they care, because they've spoken to families, because they have platformed the voices of parents who have lost their children to the dark side of online culture. And that's where we need to pause and say, once again, Harry and Meghan were right. Once again, the voices that the tabloids tried to mock, the voices that the haters tried to discredit, are now being echoed by the very establishment that once pretended to ignore them. Let's take it back to April, New York City, when Harry and Meghan unveiled the Lost Screen Memorial. 50 glowing smartphone-shaped lightboxes, each representing a child whose life was cut short because of harmful online content. Can you even imagine the weight of that moment? Parents standing there, grieving yet strong, with Harry and Meghan at their side, not just smiling for the cameras, but deeply present, listening, hugging, honouring those lives. And Harry said something that still chills me in its truth. Life is better off social media. Think about that. A prince, a man who has been hounded and persecuted by the very media machine that now thrives on social media, daring to tell the world that this cycle has to stop. And then, showing his heart once again, he expressed gratitude that his own little ones, Archie and Lilibet, are still too young to be caught up in that world. That's not a celebrity statement. That's a father, a protector, a man who knows the value of keeping innocence intact for as long as possible. Now, the King has echoed that concern. That tells you everything. It tells you that Harry and Meghan's work is not fringe, not performative, not irrelevant. It is central to the conversations that matter. It is the pulse of where humanity must focus its energy, because if children are not safe online, then we as a society have failed. But of course, you know how this works. The moment Harry and Meghan raise these issues, the British tabloids turn it into an attack. They sneer. They scoff. They pretend Meghan is virtue signalling or that Harry is somehow out of touch. But when King Charles repeats the same thing in Balmoral, suddenly it's serious. Suddenly it's noble. Suddenly it's a wise royal concern. The hypocrisy could not be more glaring. And let's be clear about the wider royal picture. The article also mentions Prince William's campaigns. And yes, William has spoken about cyberbullying and pushed for youth-led codes of conduct. That's good. Nobody's taking that away. But the difference is in the heart and the follow-through. William has made it a PR talking point, a project here and there while Harry and Meghan have been living this mission, creating tangible memorials, convening global leaders, working through their Archewell Foundation, and amplifying real voices who otherwise would be ignored. And let's not pretend the British media doesn't play a double game here. They constantly scream about Harry and Meghan's obsession with media, but those same outlets profit off clickbait articles that harm the very children and teenagers we're talking about. Cyberbullying? The tabloids themselves are among the biggest bullies. So, when Meghan was driven nearly to the breaking point by online lies and abuse, the press laughed. They painted her as fragile or manipulative. And yet, the same journalists clutch their pearls when the King speaks on the very same dangers. This is why I always say the double standards against Meghan and Harry are not only unfair, they are dangerous. Because here's the truth. Harry and Meghan were ahead of their time. They used their platform, even when it cost them dearly, to shed light on the toxic influence of social media. Meghan herself has spoken candidly about how the online abuse affected her mental health, how it made her question her safety, her identity, even her place in the world. That vulnerability, that honesty was met with mockery by her detractors, but it was also met with love and support by millions around the world who saw themselves in her story. That's leadership, that's impact. And look at Archewell. They have partnered with organisations working to make the online space safer for kids. They've invested in research. They've elevated the stories of families who are often silenced. This isn't a hashtag campaign. This is real action. And now, with King Charles speaking out, it proves that what the Sussexes have been saying was never radical. It was never Hollywood nonsense. It was truth. Now, let's also note who wasn't in the Balmoral meeting. Queen Camilla didn't attend. That's fine. Not every royal conversation is for everyone, but the symbolism here is that Charles himself, the head of state, the monarch, is recognising the urgency. And if he truly means it, then he needs to back it up with action, not just words, because Harry and Meghan have shown that words without action are empty. So family, where does this leave us? It leaves us with undeniable proof that Harry and Meghan are not just royal rebels, not just a couple carving their own path. They are global leaders shaping conversations that matter, and the establishment, whether it likes it or not, is following their lead. So the next time you hear the British press try to dismiss Meghan as attention-seeking or Harry as out of touch, remember this moment. Remember that even the King is standing in the shadow of their foresight. Remember that the Sussexes, once mocked for their California causes, are in fact speaking the language of the future. And let me tell you this, history is already being written. One day, when we look back, people will not remember the sneering tabloid headlines. They will remember the lost screen memorial. They will remember Harry and Meghan fighting for children's safety. They will remember the courage it took to tell the truth when it was unpopular. That is legacy. And that, my friends, is why we will always stand with the Sussexes. Because they are not only right, they are righteous. King Charles echoes concerns shared by Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. Queen Camilla was not present during the discussion at Balmoral. King Charles has voiced deep concern about the impact of social media on children, echoing recent calls for stronger online safeguards from Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. The monarch spoke privately with Reverend Tommy McNeil, who runs the Shed Project mental health charity on the Isle of Lewis, during a 40-minute meeting at Balmoral Castle on Sunday. Rev McNeil, who preached at the morning service attended by the King and Queen, said Charles was very concerned about the negative impact social media was having on young people in so many ways, and really understood the problems and the difficulties involved in combating them. He was very engaged and 100% appreciative of the work we are doing, Rev McNeil told the Telegraph. Young people today are growing up in a different world to their parents. The stuff they're accessing on their phones is frightening, he added. King Charles was clearly very concerned about the whole issue and negative influences on young people from social media. It is almost impossible to police social media, so we need to find ways to combat that. Queen Camilla did not attend the post-service discussion at Balmoral. The King's comments come after the Duke and Duchess of Sussex highlighted similar dangers in April when they unveiled the Lost Screen Memorial in New York City. The installation, made of 50 smartphone-shaped light boxes, honours children whose families believe online content contributed to their deaths. We want to make sure that things are changed so that no more kids are lost to social media, Prince Harry said at the time. He added, life is better off social media, and expressed gratitude that his own children are still too young to be online. Prince William has also pressed for tighter protections. Through his Stop Speak support campaign to counter cyberbullying, he helped create a youth-led code of conduct and worked with platforms such as Snapchat and Facebook on pilot schemes. He has repeatedly criticised social media firms for failing to tackle misinformation and hate speech, urging them to put user safety first and improve abuse reporting systems. Now, before we wrap up, let me say this. If you've been moved by today's discussion, if you see the hypocrisy and the brilliance the way we do here on Royal Sussex Squad, then make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a moment of truth and support. And if you want to show extra love for the work we do here, you can send a super thanks right below this video. It goes a long way in helping us keep this platform strong and growing. Harry and Meghan's voices are needed now more than ever. And together with this squad, we will make sure those voices are heard. Until next time, family, stay safe, stay informed, and as always, stay Sussex strong.